Yeah. So the intention is we'll bring people, experienced startup founders, bring people from industry to share insights, key insights around strategic partnerships that they've been part of, what works, what doesn't work, um, in different contexts, and share from their rich experience. And this is the first of the master classes. But for this one, we've decided not to leave it, not to keep it for those who are part of the program, but to open it up to startups wherever they are. And I'm really, really pleased to have my good friend Femi Adeyemo, my namesake, on as our speaker today. Femi is the CEO and founder of our Energy, a solar, an energy company, leveraging solar to actually help businesses, individuals, commercial enterprises with electricity in Nigeria using clean tech. Your business has been invested in by Bill Gates amongst others. I think recently they were featured in a Forbes article talking about 5 companies that Bill Gates is betting on for the future. Femi is going to be sharing from the rich experience around working with enterprises. Before starting Energy, he's done quite a bit around a lot of enterprise implementation, working with large corporates across Nigeria, across the world. And so on the call, I expect he'll be sharing insights into what he's seen in strategic partnerships. He'll share experiences from partnerships that they have going, and what startups can watch out for as they use strategic partnerships as a tool for scale. Now, the way the session is going to run, once I'm done talking, Femi will have about 15-20 minutes to share some critical insights with us, and then the floor will be open for questions. I'll ask a few questions first, and then I'll throw the questions open to everyone that's on the call. So if at any time as he's speaking, what I'd ask you to do is, if you can get a notepad, you will need a notepad for sure to take notes as he's speaking. But in your notepad, you can just write your questions down so that once I open the floor for questions, then you can type your questions in the chat, and he'll take the time to answer. We have about 1 hour or about 50 minutes to go for the call. But I'm expecting that it's going to be a very rich experience. Over to you, Femi. The floor is yours.
All right. Thank you, Femi, for the introduction and for inviting me to speak on the topic that is very dear to my heart, strategic partnership. And of course, I mean, discussing that with startup entrepreneurs, because if a nation is going to develop, we need a lot of entrepreneurs to be able to scale, for us to have that economic development that has eluded us for decades. So strategic partnership, I will go back a bit, even prior to us raising capital. And for the benefit of entrepreneurs that might not know Energy, so we started operation 2014 January, and that was about 5 months after I moved back to Nigeria from my globetrotting. That's what I call it. I had my first degree in Nigeria, started my professional career with a Chinese, which is now global, company called Huawei. And I was one of the pioneer employees. I believe I was definitely double-digit employee ID with Huawei when they got to Nigeria. So I think I owe Huawei some of the entrepreneurial drive, right? Because I mean, those were the days that few months into joining Huawei, I became a manager, right? In less than 6 months, responsible for Southwest deployments. And I'm talking of several hundreds of sites in the telecom space. But of course, later left Nigeria and worked with, I worked in Europe, in South America, and later in the Middle East, Oman, before coming back to Nigeria, when it was clear to me that the energy problem in Nigeria, if it was going to be resolved, it has to be resolved by Nigerians. That's Nigerians solving Nigeria problem, Africans solving African problem. So, of course, 2014, we started operation. We did not start with strategic partnership. We started running after customers one after the other. So 2014, that's what we did, largely for almost the most part of 2014 until late December 2014. And I got a message. Of course, LinkedIn, that's why I don't joke with LinkedIn. So our first strategic partnership was an inbound into my LinkedIn email by someone very, very senior at Bank of Industry. Very, very senior, the most senior really, but I'll save his name. Just alerting me that have I seen a request for proposal that Bank of Industry had put out. And of course, I checked, and it was clear to us that we needed to go into a strategic partnership with Bank of Industry. Because 2014, solar is not what it is now, even though, I thought that we're really doing some good work in customer advocacy and education, but until, we have an ad that is running on channels television recently, and it's also dawned on me again that, we still have a lot of work to do, because I thought Nigerians now know that solar can power refrigerator, air conditioner, but some of the feedback, proved otherwise. So back to Bank of Industry, we were able to then put together a proposal that led to us being one of two companies that Bank of Industry onboarded to their rural electrification program. I did not know the person that sent me the mail, a very senior executive, but our work spoke for us. Because one of the things that we did when I moved back, I recall I was featured on NTA. It's called Young Boss. And that was because they saw what we're doing and the story of how I moved back on Bella Niger then. So I'm saying all of this to let you know that for you to be able to learn strategic partnership as a founder, CEO, you have to also be out there. And it doesn't mean you have to break the bank. At that time, we have zero budget really on advertising. So we got Bank of Industry, which was more or less our first strategic partnership. And that was largely a debt investment into the company. But what that gave us, it gave us more than debt, because Bank of Industry was able to showcase us on the BOI weekly program on Channels Television. And a lot of Nigerians that thought solar, is that thing that can only power bulbs and charge phone. Because of that partnership and the free ad that came with it, we started having inbound requests. Of course, Bank of Industry goal, they had then maybe they call it 5-year strategic plan. And one of those plans is to see how they can, using renewable energy or clean energy, meet some of their own objectives. So one thing that is critical with strategic partnership is when you are looking at who will be your strategic partners, there has to be some form of synergy and alignment in your organization goal or strategy. So energy, we were set up. Our vision is to provide sustainable solutions to energy reliability issues across emerging markets, starting with Nigeria. now is a bank. I mean, the largest development financial in Nigeria, having one of their 5-year goals that aligned with what we're doing. So that synergy was there. And what was the end goal? The end goal or the expected outcome was clear. Provide solar to rural communities at price points that those people in the community will be able to afford. So we're able to tick the box from both ends, and that was how we're able to get into Bank of Industry. That was 2015, 2016. Also, it became clear to me, of course, before leaving all my globetrotting, it was clear that I wasn't coming to Nigeria to run a Femi Adeyemo and Sons enterprises. I wanted to build an organization that in 10 years will be on a path or will have a clear line of sight being similar to one of the organizations that I worked for when I was an employee. So it was clear from the onset that I needed to build a team. And then if I'm going to be able to get the organization to to look like based on structure and capitalization, some of those multinationals that I used to work with, I knew that we will need some strategic partnership that will help us to be able to land the type of investors that we will hope to have on a cap table. So we were lucky to have a customer number 3, even though it's a residential customer. Then he was a senior manager at one of the big 4. So we power his home. Of course, we ensured even till date that we go all the way out. Customer is God for us to ensure that we delight our customer. So customer number 3 was very excited with the installation that we did. He didn't need to, in the middle of the night, go downstairs to switch on generator, the way he used to. Of course, he turned to be an evangelist for the company. Fast forward till today, we have not less than, and the company is KPMG, right? Because we're a good partner with KPMG, up to C-level. We've been able to power at least not less than residents of 10 partners at KPMG, which was really, really, really useful for us during the due diligence of Series A. And we didn't only do that. Yes, we did that on the residential, but we know that corporates will also be helpful. So I believe it was sometime in 2017 that we were then able to power KPMG Data Recovery Center at Bagada. So we had Bank of Industry, we had KPMG, and also sometime 2017, 2018, prior to the commencement of the due diligence for our Series A, we had a very fantastic opportunity to partner with General Electric. GE had partnered with Shell, Shell Community Healthcare Program. It's an NGO of Shell in the Niger Delta states where Shell operates. Shell adopts hospitals, and they more or less remodel the hospitals. So for this particular one, in the time where Nigeria discovered oil, Oloibiri, GE was going to work with Shell to power the hospital. To cut the long story short, we were shortlisted, and then, sorry about that. We were shortlisted to power the hospital, and then, of course, after that, we've gone ahead to power several, other locations, in partnership with those 2 multinationals. So I believe that you will agree with me that if we were going into a Series A roadshow and a Nigerian company was able to point to the only or maybe the biggest development finance institution in the Nigerian, were point to KPMG on the corporate and the management team. I mean, some of the partners, given how Big Fours are structured, some of even the partners' residential deployments were paid for by the corporates. You know, so also we're able to point to a GE and a Shell. I mean, that made life easier. I mean, during a Series A due diligence and conversation with investors. So those are some of the things that, so investors' confidence is one of the things that strategic partnership can bring. And of course, scale. So post a Series A, of course, we have other organizations like Citibank, where we have systems powering some of the branches. I mean, Kano, I believe Port Harcourt, I think one in Habia too. Bank of Industry, the partnership, we started with taking a loan from Bank of Industry to management team members and staff of BOI said, oh, after we powered those communities, they were not going to come back to Lagos and in their own homes, they're still running generators. So they came back to us to say, oh, I want one in my home. To us, powering several branches of Bank of Industry now, with our 5 kilowatt system powering their strategic and very critical equipment, including security devices. Dangote is a customer. Some of Dangote's distribution outlets. I mean, we have a few of those, even though it's the early days, we expect to be able to do more with them. But that's what partnership can give. It can bring you some sort of seal of approval, especially when you're looking to raise capital with investors that are not local. That will help and largely scale. Unfortunately, and I would say that Nigeria is not. I was looking at companies in Nigeria really that have that much scale or that have multi locations. I mean, South Africa is definitely doing far better than us when it comes to multi locations. But the thing is, with what we have in Nigeria, the banking sector is one that has multi locations. Of course, it depends on your business. You need to also look at what are your strategic goals and what can corporates do, and to be able to help you more or less leapfrog that growth and hack the growth, so to speak. Right. So I think I will stop here for now. Happy to take questions, but in summary, strategic partnership, you need to first of all know what your goals are, and then more or less maybe go into a brainstorming session with the rest of the team to see what organizations in what verticals can bring you that growth. Because it's not all verticals can be your vertical, really. It's not for us. We know the verticals that electricity is critical. We don't joke with healthcare because we know that hospitals cannot really operate without electricity. In the recent time, we have looked at, we've gone back to my first love, which is telecommunication, to see how that aligns, with our goal too. So Femi, let me stop here. I expect this to be as interactive as possible.
Thank you very much. Femi, I thank you so much for the presentation. I think in many ways I like that you've illustrated. So it's not theory. It's actually practical, it's concrete. A few questions before I open it up to everyone else. And just to point out, please, I hope you're taking note of your questions because I'm going to open the floor for questions. How long does it usually take you typically to go from we want to partner with this organization through to hey, we now have a deal?
Very good question.
And I know it varies, but it'd be great to hear.
Yeah, it definitely varies. And I mean, for some, I mean, I think I've seen some that are taking maybe even a year. But what could also be helpful is, I mean, the concept of proof of concept.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, I mentioned Dangote. I mean, I believe that POC with Dangote is definitely more than 6 months now, maybe up to 9, and it hasn't reached commercial stage yet. But I think what is also helpful from my experience is if you are able to find that corporate or enterprise whose strategic goals align with yours 100%. That could be as short as just 3 months.
Okay.
And we saw that this year, really. COVID, all of the disruptions that COVID brought, supply chain disruptions, enterprise that would normally maybe import from the US or China, with all of what COVID brought, they then were trying to say, is there a local company that can provide XYZ? And preparation then met opportunity for us. And we were able to say, hey, okay, I mean, we can do this. I recall that we're in a meeting. And myself and my chief commercial officer were in that meeting. And after the presentation, the prospective partners, the management team, we had everybody, I mean, on the other side, on the round table. And they asked me, oh, okay, so if we are ready, how soon can you guys get to site? And I'm like, what a question. I'm like, wait a minute, maybe we will need 3 weeks. They say, that will be too late. Can you guys get like next week? So when we got, after the meeting, when we got outside, my chief commercial officer was asking me that, CEO, why didn't you say
next
yes?
Week, tomorrow.
Tomorrow. But I mean, later, I mean, she got to realize why I didn't jump at tomorrow. But yeah, so that's the varying timeline that you could see. I mean, some could take a year, some even put a proof of concept that you might deem that, oh, this is going well, might be deemed from the prospective partners as not good enough. So also it's also important to define ab initio what will be the success factors. You know, but yeah, I mean, it varies. But what we've seen is, especially if you've done a lot of due diligence and you know what the pain points of the prospective partners are, and you're able to just strike all the chords, you know, that can then help to shorten the timelines and then, of course, proof of concept. You know, there is one particular one that we're very, very excited about because of the nature of the disclosure. I might not be able to mention the company or the but we were asked to do proof of concept. Proof of concept was meant to take maybe 3 months. I can tell you that we were not done with the proof of concept, just sending pictures and sharing some data. We got a purchase order of 50 locations.
Wow.
Within 2 weeks of deploying proof of concept.
Wow. Okay.
So that's also what, I mean, doing your due diligence can give you, knowing what the pain points are and trying to see how you can help the partners across the value chain of their business. If they're able to do all of that and strike the right chord, I mean, that could shorten. And what I will also say is you don't have to start with the big names, because the big names, going through the approval process and all of that, fact, I should share an experience. So in one of the sectors that we play with now, we're trying to start with the big boys. And we were just meeting brick wall. And then someone very senior just mentioned that, Femi, you know, testimonial goes a long way in this sector.
Yep.
If someone can just say, or even if it's a small company, we're now, I mean, a customer, and then XYZ is happening. And that's exactly what we did. And that's, I mean, I can tell, I mean, it's telecom. We went back to play with some of, not big names, but that enabled us to, I mean, to have a product in a network of some of the biggest in the continent. And by the time we went back with a case study of what our footprints is now, they were like, oh, really? And then emails started flying around. And then, I mean, and we believe that there will be some big announcements this second half of the year from the outcome of that.
Nice. You know why I'm smiling is you're just validating, in many ways, you're just validating all the things that we've been talking about in the last 6 weeks. Do your due diligence, know their pain points. Don't start with the big boy. Start with a proof of concept, a pilot. You don't need to start with something big. Measure all the things that we've touched on. It's great to hear you reaffirm and emphasize them, but in practice. Can I ask? It's not. I know it's not all been rosy.
Of course not.
Can you share some the bad and the ugly sides to strategy?
Okay. So I think one of the bad is it's, I mean, when you want to play with the big boys at times. So I, for one, I want my project, everything to be prepared, you know, pay me. I mean, it's electricity. We don't want to get into the collection issues that has leveled our industry or our sector. You know, so I want pay me before we even get to sites, you know. But I mean, with the enterprise, I mean, that's not. I mean, and we also pride ourselves with we're technology enabled and all of that. Some of the enterprise, I'm sorry, it is still check. You know, and you better align or you're out. You know, so those are some of what, I mean, did not play to our preference. But of course, when you see the volume that they can bring,
you adjust.
Of course, you have to adjust. Another experience is a proof of concept that almost gone wrong. When I say gone wrong, I mean, we've deployed, we've done everything. I mean, our commercial team, technical team, showing all of the data and all of that, only for us to hear that, oh, the POC did not pass.
Okay.
You know, so when I heard that, I'm like, okay, what should we do? Why didn't it pass? Okay, let's get all of the data. Can we go back to the drawing board to try to show them really that, I mean, are you sure it did not pass? So interestingly, so these are a few locations are POC. And it got to a point that we got a more or less a termination letter from the partner that, they were not going to go ahead and we should just go ahead and decommission the products.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was that bad, you know. So we were on the management meeting session, one Monday morning, and I was just discussing with my management team to say what can we do, you know. So okay, we agreed if they had said they're not going to pay for it going forward, let's decommission, but let's stagger the decommissioning.
Okay.
So our deployment team went to the first location. They decommissioned.
Okay.
And moved the system back to our facilities. And I then asked for feedback. Of course, I mean, I tasked the team to ensure that they document the detail. Interestingly, the deployment team moved to the second location to decommission, only for the end user to say, "Why are you decommissioning?"
Okay.
And we were like, our guys were like, "Oh, the principal said, the system is not fit for use and all of that." And the user said, "No, that's not correct. They've seen tremendous savings.
Oh, wow.
And the business is doing better because of the product that we have deployed." I'm like, okay, that is interesting. So when I got that feedback, we then got another feedback from the location that we had decommissioned, that indeed the user was reluctant. But because it was more or less order from above, that was why the user allowed us to decommission. You know, that was like, I was more or less on the moon when I heard that. I said, okay, guys, you know what? Let's get the users to document that this is a position. You know, so as soon as we heard that, we get to work, of course, make a few calls, and then that deal that would have gone sour completely, we're able to turn it around. That's also one big deal that we have in the pipeline, that when it happens, we can't cover it because it's big. One of the multinationals. So yeah, that's would have gone bad completely. But also we didn't just say, so never say never. At the end of the day, I think that will eventually end well. But it's not going to happen every time like that. You know, like I said, some of what we would have preferred, some of our processes, payments upfront, this, that. It's not really the case. And there has to be that synergy. We have another one, one of the biggest, I think this partner has about 400 locations in the country. We're still at 2. You know, and we want to be at triple figure at least.
Wow. Okay.
So it's also, so we've heard that, okay, maybe it's not up to what we expect and all of that. You have to engage. Engage, just give it your all to ensure that at least it will be said that you put in everything. If at the end of the day, it doesn't work out.
So one last question for me before I throw it open. So I speak to lots of founders who say, well, I'm not interested in this enterprise strategic partnership because they just end up wasting your time and you get nothing. How do you respond to that?
Very good and valid points, really, Femi. So I think that it has to be done strategically, and each organization, each company needs to say, what are the growth drivers for the organization? And I will be very open here. So there are some investors that will not. So maybe I take a step back. We're very, very heavy on the retail end of the markets. Residential play, we're very, very heavy on the residential play. But the fact that the way that is structured, it's one customer here, one customer there. If you want to raise significant capital from project finance type financiers, it is not entirely easy. Say, I can tell you that I have even fought this. I have fought investors that, come on, residential, Nigeria is big on residential. We have 30 million households and all of that. But it is what it is. I can continue to just rant and try to fight until we do what tick the box for the mandate of such investors. We won't move the needle. Of course, you can probably use your equity if, you're lucky, like energy, to raise, tens of millions, in equity, and maybe you then use that to finance your retail. And then maybe you then have what we call securitization, later to securitize all of those receivables. But if you want to unlock project finance, it is not entirely easy from 4 or 5 years.
B2C.
Daily, B2C, dealing with investors at the top level. It's not, especially on the debt side. Project finance type funds are structured. They will ask, who are your off-takers? Yeah. And the easiest for you to be able to show your off-takers is if you have some sort of B2B deals. Yes, it's not entirely easy, and I don't also subscribe that you should put all your egg in that basket. B2B bucket. It could be frustrating, and that's why for us, we have that. B2C takes minimum 30% of our portfolio today, and it might even grow beyond that. We used to be bigger, try to reduce it, but now, given COVID, with all what is happening, with everyone working from home, we're seeing, last quarter, we had a bit more, I believe, on the residential side.
Thank you very much, Femi. So I'll throw the floor open for questions. If you have a question, you can, maybe you activate your camera so I can see you, or you type your question in chat. Anyone with a question? And you're allowed to just unmute your mic and then ask your question. Ruben.
Yes, sir. Hi, Femi. Longe.
Hi, Ruben.
Hi, Femi. Adeyemo.
Adeyemo.
Adeyemo. Femi Adeyemo. I would say.
So Ruben is on the program, but he's from Kenya.
Yeah.
Okay, understood. Hi, Ruben. How is Kenya?
So I'm from Kenya, and like you, I'm globetrotting a bit, kind of finalizing my globetrot. And I think what you've done today is first validate Femi, because the things that we've been talking about for the last 6 weeks, really, concretizing the fact that there's value being added by this program. Secondly, for me, is just to say congratulations. The work that I've had you've done since 2014, being employee double-digit something at a corporation, and then moving to this point. I can only imagine there's a lot of stuff that's gone in. My question then is around the beginning, because at least for the guys who've been with Femi, we're at the start of our journey, right? And you talking about solar energy in Nigeria, a place where I've stayed, and I know what energy is like in Nigeria, right? It's like talking about 5G in the 1990s, In 2014, you're really selling a vision of something that, one, is not comprehensible, and two, is not understood by the market. But more importantly for me, that there's a lot of resistance because you're dealing with big boys, big industry, right? And disrupting those. So my question is, in those early days, how do you break that ceiling of a message that makes no sense to probably anyone but you?
Yeah, thank you, Ruben. Very, very valid question. I think that what worked for us, I had mentioned the Bank of Industry. It's really that partnership helped, and the fact that we were able to have some evangelists. And of course, so I moved back to Nigeria July 2013, and I was also strategic by telling everybody that care to listen that the product work. And I will just tell you a short story where the first set of customers, the first 3 customers, where they came from. So it was, for people that live in Lagos, Magodo Shangisha. So I was staying at Magodo then. So I moved to the estate in July. Of course, moving back, I ensured, because I had tried to move back in 2008, but I failed because having lived abroad just about 3 years out, coming back with all of the generator noise and all of that, I could not cope. So I lasted just 3 months and I took off again. So moving back in 2013, I ensured that my residence was installed with solar, a solar powered solution before I even moved in. So in the estate meeting, so it was a resident association meeting, August 2013. And Ruben, like you said, like half of the time we spent during the resident association meeting, everybody, they were just complaining about electricity. There were some very notable Nigerians. Femi, you definitely will know Bisi Olatilo, that runs Bisi Olatilo show. Bisi Olatilo was in that meeting. Tayo Shonuga, who is the founder of Avon Homes, the builder of Richmond, the developer of Richmond Gate, where a lot of celebrities in Nigeria live, was in the meeting. So I was like, wait a second, why are you people complaining about electricity? Why don't you solve your problem? You tired the road yourself. Why don't you provide your own electricity by going solar? And everybody laughed. Solar? That thing that doesn't work? Don't you see the street lights at the entrance of the estates? They told me they installed it not up to 6 months and they've all packed up. So you're telling us about solar. I'm like, really? Okay, I just moved to this estate and my house is powered with solar. They said, no, it's not possible. I convinced about 50% of the attendee that day to follow me home. They saw the solution. As fate will have it, that Saturday morning, there was no power from the grid in the estates. Every household generator noise, left, right, center. As they entered my gate, they could feel that calmness. And it was a Saturday morning. My people in the house, they were using the washing machine, and the way the house was designed, you see the laundry as you're walking in. So the laundry and the dryer were spinning, and they were like, oh, so you even powered the washing machine, the dryer, they saw air conditioner on. That was August. But that was not enough to convince them to write the check until January, so 5 months later. And I can tell you, some of them, they were driving by the house just to check when there was no power. Is the generator, has this guy brought in the generator from nowhere? So they saw that, okay, it seems that this product is different. And by December, Boxing Day, one of them called me that, hey, Mr. Adeyemo, please, can you come over to my house? Let's have a conversation. And 2nd of January, 2014, 2 of those people that visited wrote us the check. And that was how the company started. And the 3rd person used to be a neighbor to the 2nd person. And from there, word of mouth, and of course, the quality of what we were doing and what we still do. So the word of mouth just started to go around like that. And the rest, they say, is history. But I can tell you, you also need to be on top of your game. Because when you're talking of enterprise, you will meet people on the other side that if you don't know your game, they will they will disgrace you, so to speak. So I think that's the level of excellence that entrepreneurs need to be, especially when you want to play the B2B game. Because if they then see you as a subject matter expert, then the story will change. I can tell you some of those tier 1 organizations will get into meetings, even when it's taking time for them to sign at the corporate level. They'll say, okay, but hold on a minute, I need this in my house. Because they can hear the quality of what is coming from your mouth and see that it's not fluke. And by the time they have it in their house, they will now be your evangelist in the organization. And we've seen that in several organizations. I'm not sure there is a single enterprise that we partner with today that we don't have someone in the organization using our product in there.
Brilliant.
Ruben, I hope that answers your question.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And thank
Any other questions? If you have a question, just unmute your mic and ask.
Not so many questions.
All right.
It's that maybe I've confused people. Okay, go ahead, Wale.
Very interesting one, Femi. Fantastic. And Femi Longe, fine. This is also nice, you know. A lot of kudos to both of you. Inspiring speech as well. So very first one, we'll go to Femi Longe. Sorry, you said you've been doing this for 6 weeks. Sorry, this is my first session.
Yes.
How do I get, are there other ones that are coming after that I don't want to lose out of, right? I don't know.
Yes. So ask your other question. I'll come back towards the end and I'll talk about the program that we're having that's going for.
Okay then, thank you. So to Femi Adeyemo, fantastic work. I also have the same kind of background like you do, worked in Huawei as well, early days. Yeah, fine story. But please, I want to ask, I mean, I know you had mentioned it, right? But this is the junction where I am as well. Trying to scale, trying to grow as well. How do you get into those conversations for Series A funding? How do you get into that, please? Just, I mean, if you could speak a bit towards that. I know, so that I can put the pieces together. You had mentioned it earlier, but if you could spend some more time there, I might be able to get 1 or 2, 3 things there. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So again, I think you just need to, number one, put yourself out there. Series A, for us, unlike several organizations that will go through seed, maybe even pre-seed, angel round, then seed prior to Series A. The only outside capital that we had pre Series A was the debt from the Bank of Industry. But how were we able to bring all of our investors together? So we had 4 investors in our Series A round. The round was led by Breakthrough Energy Ventures, which is a fund put together by Bill Gates, so Jeff Bezos, Jack Ma, Mayor Bloomberg, and I mean, 22 other world business leaders are on that fund. How did they get to know us? They were coming to Nigeria. They wanted to invest in Africa. They had not had any investment in Africa. So as they were leaving the US, the team, the power team at the USAID mentioned to them that ensure that you don't leave Nigeria without speaking to the energy guys. How did the USAID guys, how did they know about us? Because we were intentional about getting what we were doing out there to within the ecosystem. And we were also very intentional to attend conferences that we know we can meet with these guys. So that's how the Breakthrough Energy guys met with us, or how we met them. They flew to Lagos, and we attended, of course, that same event that they were coming to attend in Lagos. We were also invited. So we met with them, of course, shared the story again. They were very impressed. They came to our office and we had a prototype of what we call Energy 2.0, which is what energy will look like post the Series A. The 3 people that visited are all PhD holders. 2 of them PhD electrical electronics, 1 of them PhD material science. The two PhD electrical, in fact, 1 of them was, I believe, a head of departments at MIT. Also, this also speaks to you need to know your stuff, because you can't tell those guys fluff. Easily, they will be able to tell if you don't know what you're doing. So, one of our other investors, I've mentioned Breakthrough Energy Venture, the other the RAND was co-led by the European Union, a fund called Electrify, which is owned by the 16 European Union DFIs. How did we meet, or how did we get to know about them? We actually got to know them from Bank of Industry. So they were coming to Nigeria. They were with Bank of Industry, and of course, because we were one of the two companies that Bank of Industry had just invested in, so by default, they introduced, and we started having conversation with them. When we made our announcement for the RAND, in fact, most people did not know BEV until you mentioned the Bill Gates, I mean, the billionaires behind them. The Electrify, which is the European Union fund, most people also did not know them. I mean, I got a lot of congratulatory notes when, I mean, we made the announcement and people got to realize that Norfund is the Norwegian government fund for developing countries. I mean, that's the parent fund, it's more than $1 trillion. So when people heard that, I recall I was at an event where the president of Nigerian Norwegian Chambers of Commerce and Industry said, Femi, how did you get Norfund to invest equity in your company? He said, even as the president of the chamber, he had been trying for almost forever to get Norfund to do equity investment. How did I meet Norfund? I was at an event in Accra. I was on a panel, just like we're discussing now, speaking passionately about what we have done and what the future looks like. And the gentleman who is, I mean, on our board now as an observer, reached out to me. I mean, he came to me after the panel, told me about what Norfund is all about, and that at some point they will be happy to have conversation. That was 2017, April. They wrote the check 2019, March. So that's like 2 years later. So at times it's also not like this, that relationship, especially with the top investors. But I think it's a lot easier now because now we have some impact fund, a few other grants that you can start with. We also got some grants along the way, and some of those grants, given that they're multilateral grants, they can also be some sort of seal of approval because that also exposes you to the investors network. I hope that is helpful, Wale.
It does. Thanks, Femi. It really, really does. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I think, Femi, listening to your answer, I think it's very interesting looking at, and I guess it's for everyone, looking at how the threads connect between the people you met for one thing and how they opened the door for something else. So your relationship with BOI as a partner on something ends up introducing you to different funding institutions, investors that you didn't even know existed. But also how you're able to leverage relationships to then open up new partnerships, particularly when you have validation. Where I guess it's part of what we're also seeing. And when I say win, I'm talking about startups that are on the program. Last week, I was on a call with one of the startups in the room with the head of digital transformation at Lafarge in Switzerland. Okay. And the key question he was asking is, okay, it's fine if we pilot this thing in Lagos and the Southwest where you are, but do you have the capacity to scale what you're proposing across Nigeria? I don't know if you got questions like that in your early days, and how were you able to navigate those kind of, because for startups speaking to someone at PZ yesterday for 2 of the startups, similar conversations are happening. What are your credibility markers? Have they worked with other people before? Do they have the capacity to work with us? How do you deal with that as a startup founder?
Yeah, absolutely. In the early days, I recall when we got into so I'll use the GE Shell partnership. So GE got the project from Shell, and of course Shell is a big client for GE. As a matter of fact, GE, they were going to deploy. I mean, as you know, GE is a power company. They do solar, even though it's larger scale. So they were going to use the product, right? And of course, commercials, economics, and all of that, it was clear that that was not going to happen. And they had to then look inward. Is there a Nigerian company that could do this? I recall getting into the meeting room at Adeyemo GE office of, Lagos office of GE. Yeah. And that was 2017. So we're just about 3 years in operation. And there was a question, oh, so how long have you guys been in operation? Like, yeah, about 3 years now. Oh, 3 years old company? And you think we will give you our premium customer shell and you mess it up? So I had to speak of the experience of the management team. Even though then, I mean, the management team is not as large as it is today. Right? So I had to more or less focus on the experience. So I think that's what startup founders can do in the early days. Combine experience of the founders, the co-founders, or the management team. That's one that it is not a sin for you to name drop, right? Name drop as much as you can. Tell them organizations you've worked. I'm a very humble person. I want to believe I'm a very humble person, but when it comes to that, I throw humility to the dustbin, right? So I was able to tell them all the projects that I had deployed in Nigeria, in South America, in the Middle East. And I noticed that the body language changed like 30 minutes into the conversation. They're like, okay, maybe we can give you a chance. The next meeting, they then brought in even their team, their Indian team. And as fate will have it, I saw a flaw in what they had designed or what they had proposed. And I was able to say, guys, if we go this way, we're going to fail. Let's do X, Y, Z. And at the end of the day, we went back and forth and said, oh, Femi, you know what, you're right. And that just sealed the project for us. So, yeah, early days, yes, there will be some pushback like that, but you just need to be the best at your game. And if they can sense that you are a subject matter expert, even though, the organization might be 1 year old, but you're not just coming out of the university. Random. And even if you're just coming from the university, that means you need to then find some other ways, either it's on projects or find some consultants, even if you cannot afford those consultants at that point, that you can more or less piggyback on them or use them or fly on their shoulder.
We have room for one last question.
Good evening,
Peter.
Yeah, good evening, Femi.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. So Femi, I have one question, basically. For the enterprise partnerships that you guys have or had or still have now, so did the entire partnership flow at the pace of the enterprise partner, or was there a time that you needed that partnership to happen at your own time? So if you had instances where you needed a partnership to happen at a specific time, not at the pace of the big enterprise partner, whenever it happens, it's fine. So what specific things did you do to, move that needle, to make that happen quicker, in order for you to be able to now do other things you want to do with that kind of partnership? Because from what you've explained now, your business is built partnership upon partnership, one partnership led to another, one relationship led to another. Was there a time you needed to do something to make a partnership happen quicker, and what were those things that you did to make that happen?
Yeah, very good question. what were the things to make partnership happen, or to more or less hack the process? Is that your question? Just to be sure. Peter,
you're on mute.
Yes, that's
okay.
technically the question.
All right. So I think I will use two scenarios to answer that. One is if we want to be the driver that will drive that. We've had a few cases where we had gone all out to leverage again on relationship. A relationship could be even your board members, your advisors, making that call for you, right? To be able to, in fact, I mean, I can tell you today, I mean, there are two that I'm about to do today. You know, when I realized that, I mean, what we need to unlock, I do not have a very strong relationship in that. It is for you to then see, I mean, within your network, maybe, I mean, speaking to your directors, your investors, to see how they can help you fast track that. And also when it comes to technical, or, I mean, because at times, fast tracking might mean that maybe you don't even have the resources to be able to get the product ready. I mean, even given what is happening, I mean, in our nation now, I mean, with all of the brain drains and all of that. So it might also mean that you need to look outside to bring in consultants that can help you bridge that gap. I mean, we had to bring a new product to market last quarter. And of course, if we did not hack it, at times, I mean, it will bring some inconvenience even to the team. And that had happened to us. I mean, it happened to us in Q1. I mean, my people were burnt out really with the new product. But that was the sacrifice that we required, because if we did not do it at that pace, even though, I mean, we could tell, I mean, the partners to say, I mean, that, oh, we were not ready, we need 3 months to bring this product to market. So it was more or less left to us to say, let's go back to the drawing board and let's see how we can hack the growth, you know, and we're able to more or less go on the daily sprints, right? To see how can we shorten a product development that would take 6 months. How can we do it in maybe 45 days?
Yeah. If I maybe jump on, so is there a way, have you ever had to accelerate the partnership decision? And how do you do it?
Okay, so accelerate partnership decision. So you have to speak to the decision makers.
Yeah.
That's it. So, I mean, there are partnership conversations that maybe it's still, I mean, it's not at the table of the decision makers. And when you want to fast track, especially when you know that at the top, the goals align, right? I mean, you have to leave all of the talk and get a way to speak to the person that will sign the dotted lines. And I mean, I can tell you that we do that a few times. We do that a few times, especially on the enterprise side. I mean, when that is critical, I mean, especially, I mean, I can tell you that I've had to on a weekend go to residence of CEOs and say, oh God.
Okay, that level.
That level.
Yes, so
we need to do this. And I mean, I have to put it out there that we're a very, very ethical company. We're not, I mean, like the company next door. I mean, we've walked away from deals that the ethical position align with us. But Yeah, but if it gets to level to say, oh, residential, okay, I'm coming. What is holding this thing?
Yep.
What do we need?
Yep.
Yeah. So, and I can tell you on the enterprise side, a disclosure, I did not see myself 7 years ago as someone that would do B2B in Nigeria. I thought I would just do B2C and my hockey stick growth will happen. But unfortunately, that's not the reality, right? And if you can go see a CEO, have a meeting that can give you 400 locations versus retail, maybe 5 today, 0 tomorrow, 10 the next day. I mean, that effect, right? Network effects, if you made that that such relationship can give, you can't underestimate the resulting effect of that.
Thank you so much, Femi. I think in many ways, and even your last answer, I think in many ways, a few things that are behind my passion for strategic partnerships, which are also coming across. You don't really need to know someone necessarily in an organization for you to start a partnership with them. And you don't need to compromise values. I think in many ways, those even being brought on the table for me are very interesting and important points. I know I said before, and I think Ruben echoed too, that in many ways, you're validating a lot of what we have been discussing, a lot of what I've been saying, a lot of what I tell my people around strategic partnerships, and around the way in which startups can go around building strategic relationships with big organizations. So on that, I want to thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. I think I've thoroughly enjoyed myself. I think it's been very eye-opening, and I expect it's the same. What's interesting is I've not seen anyone drop off from the call, which usually is a marker of whether people are actually getting value from the conversation or not getting value from the conversation. So thank you so much for your time. I know you're very busy. I know the notice was short, but that you gave the time and that you shared honestly with us. I think it's something that I really, really appreciate. So I'll give room for everyone. If we can unmute yourself for a second and we can give Femi a round of applause. I'd really, really appreciate that.
No, Femi.
Yep.
Nice
Ruben.
one, nice one.
Thank
Yes.
you very much, sir.
Thanks a lot.
Nice one.
Thank you, Femi.
Thank you.
So much.
It's a pleasure, guys.
Yeah, before you go,
Thank
just
you very much.
Happy to share.
yeah, I hope you guys can see my screen. So for those, and this particularly speaking to Wale's question and to what I had said before around that we have a methodology, and in many ways, Femi, you validated so this is the methodology that we're using in the program to teach around how to design and close strategic partnerships. So it typically starts, this whole first level is the due diligence phase that you talked about. Decide what the organization is, find out what their pain points are, and use that to design your offer, and then communicate that sharply. And then find the right person in there, work on a proof of concept, and then aim to close quickly. And then these are all the things that you do after the deal has happened. So in many ways, hearing you validate it is really, really, really great. And we really appreciate the time. For the benefit of other people that have been asking about the program. So like I said earlier, it's a 13 weeks program. We're already in week 6. So we have 7 weeks to go. The target that we've set internally is that every startup that's on the program, by the time 13 weeks is done, they should have closed at least one deal, at least gotten one deal to proof of concept stage, with the hope that if proof of concept goes to full commercialization, the deal will be worth at least $100,000. So that's the concrete objective that the startups that are in the program are working on. And every week it's a mix of classroom learning, some group coaching, some individual one-on-one coaching, and then lots of resources from resources for how to design the offer, to how to frame your elevator pitch, to how to write your initial email, to how to design a concept note that's simple that can pass your message across. All the works are what we're covering. The current cohort should be finishing at the end of August, and we'll be starting a new cohort in September. So if you signed up for this event, we will be sharing information with you on the next cohort. But if you want to find out more, you can reach out to me or my colleague Elijah. Just send an email to info@thepartnershiplab.com, and we'll be very happy to answer any questions you may have, or even organize a one-on-one short conversation to hear more about your business and how we may be able to help. Thank you so much, Femi.
It's a pleasure, Femi, and well done. This is good. This is really, really good.
Yeah.
And thank you for doing this.
Yes.
And my advice is, I can already say that these entrepreneurs on the current cohort are taking advantage of it. This is good, and it will help you to hack the growth and maybe reduce the time that it took energy to get there. Well done, well done. This is impressive.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, everyone. That's the end of the session. Well, at least for everyone else, the guys in the cohort can stay behind for a little bit of time. But thank you so much. We'll be sharing a feedback form to you by email. So please, if you can take 30 seconds, just share your thoughts, what you liked, what you didn't like, what we could do better for next time. And if you want to continue to hear more from us about the things that we're creating. Thank you very much.
Recording in progress. All right. Thank you, Femi, and thank you for having me. Bye for now.
Bye.